All right, moving on, Wooburg order. Haiku is back here for the Lord of the Rings set review for red cards. And again, we're focused specifically on its impact on historic pauper. Battle Scarred Goblin. It's nice that this finally they've upped the toughness of these type of creatures to 2. I still don't think this is a playable creature, but they are making them slightly better. Breaking the Fellowship, I would put this as similar as there's a black spell that you need the opponent to have 2 creatures and they sacrifice 1. This is like a similar thing where they need to have 2 creatures. The Ring Temptation at this card is probably the most efficiently costed Ring Temptation other than Birthday Gift. This may be a reasonable removal spell. One issue is that a lot of times the creature that you want to remove is the one that's going to have more power and toughness, and the little one doesn't always have enough power to kill it, like to override the toughness of the other creature. So sometimes you're going to be killing the worst creature. But overall, I think this is interesting enough with the Ring Temptation mechanic that this could see play in like ninjas. One nice thing about this card is so since you're going to use the power of the bigger creature, the Ring Temptation giving Skulk to your creature actually makes it so it's more likely for that creature to be able to get in with the creature you left, but you left the better creature. So sometimes you'd rather just a removal spell that can just deal with the creature, but if the opponent had 2 creatures and you only had 1 card to get rid of them, making your creature unblockable and then getting rid of the weaker of the 2 creatures may be reasonable. So I think Breaking the Fellowship may be a reasonable card to play in like blue-red ninjas. Again, the reason why it's coming up that ninjas, I keep talking about ninjas, is I think that's the big archetype that really benefits from the Ring Temptation. Skulk ninjas tends to work well because they all have 2 power, and that allows them to crack in for additional turns, despite the opponent presenting blockers. So I would watch out for this in blue-red ninjas. Cast into the Fire, a flexible spell. The fact that it doesn't deal 1 damage to every single of your opponent's creatures and you have to target means that it's not as good against hexproof. And so there is a card at 2 mana that destroys an artifact, deals 1 damage to every other creature, and then I think kills a defender or something else. And that card is a sorcery, so it's the same cost. It's a sorcery, so instant could be a little bit better. And then exile target artifact is kind of relevant because we have a lot of the artifact lands, indestructible lands, and so being able to exile, so basically a 2 mana Stone Rain for certain opponents is pretty interesting. So I would keep my eye on this card as well. So we got 2 kind of interesting cards that kind of slot into a space in the meta that actually means that they may see some play. Erebor's Flamesmith unfortunately will not see play. We have plenty of better cards that trigger not just on instants or sorceries, they trigger on any non-creature spell. So much better cards are available than that card. And there's enough of them that I don't think you need to delve into playing this card. You can play the Firebrand is the best card, and then the Archer is the second best. And then after that, I guess if you want a 9th card, you can consider Flamesmith. But I don't think many people are going to end up playing that card. Fire of Orthanc, not playable. Gimli's Axe, not playable. Costs a little bit too much. 3 mana plus 2 mana to equip. Doesn't really make it playable. Gimli's Fury. this card, the legendary bonus doesn't really matter for Historic Pauper, and it costs a little bit too much. Generally, you want this as 1 mana. The fact that it gives trample is a little interesting, but you could split that up into 2 cards and get Gimli's Fury. So I don't think that one's playable either. Haradrim Spearmaster. The fact that it can give other creatures a bonus it gives it kind of like a pseudo haste, but I don't think this is that playable. Okay, Improvised Club, another standout star of the set. This is Heartfire, but it has the ability to sacrifice an artifact, and we do have a lot of artifacts that are ready to be sacked in Historic Pauper. Or the biggest one is Ichor Wellspring that likes to be sacked, but also Synthesizer likes to be stacked for value. So this is a very, very strong addition, and the fact that it can target anything means that any sort of red deck has a very strong finisher. The other thing is that's been a kind of a sore spot in the red decks. They had Voltaic Surge to get rid to deal 4 damage, but it's been pretty hard to deal 4 damage. So adding this, the fact that you can deal 4 damage to face gives a lot of reach to red decks. So I could see you playing a couple of these and kind of mixing it up with Voltaic Surge and this card. Voltaic Surge is nice because you don't have to sack, and it's one less mana. So you could play it to deal 2 damage to a creature that only needs 2 damage, and if you need 4 damage, you can use an artifact. So probably one of the strongest red cards of this set. Oliphant, again, its abilities aren't that good. That the flexibility of mountain cycling, but the actual creature isn't good enough to really kind of affect Historic Pauper constructed. Or Olug High Crusher, again, not really where you want to be. They are getting more closer where they're getting cheaper and cheaper on these 4/4s with not that big of a downsides. Like this one is only a blocking downside. Normally, in the past, they've made these like not be able to attack and stuff like that and give them much more significant downsides. But anyway, enough about that one. Coral's End, we have a very similar card with a mass, where it's discard a card, draw 2, and then it creates a 1/1, the mass is 1, and this one is just create a 1/1 white human. So sometimes the human and soldier archetype or creature types is relevant. But that other card didn't see really any play at all, so I don't think this one will see play. The issue with a lot of these discard cards is that's a pretty significant cost. So you generally want to be able to discard and use a madness card, but then you have to really care about how much mana the card itself costs, and so you're paying already 3 mana in. And your madness cards, there's a couple madness cards that only cost 1, so this is turn 4, but then some of them cost 2 or 3, and so then you're talking about turns 5 or 6, where even if you get the combo, it's still not that good. Rally at the Hornburg, another dragon fodder variant where it's 2 mana to create two 1/1 tokens, but this one they both get haste, which is great, and it gets all your other creatures haste, or all your other humans haste, which is sort of relevant. Sometimes you'll play this and play the other stuff, but again, every set we get additional copy of this card or a functional reprint or a very similar print of this card, and like already in Modern they have abused these type of cards with convoked creatures, and we don't have that type of creatures that we could use in the historic Pauper meta. But again, this effect is getting to a point where you could almost play a whole deck with like 4 or 5 copies of these type of 2 mana 2/2 1/1 creatures. Relentless Rohirrim, it's a pretty efficient card for the Ring Temptation, so it's a little bit interesting in that situation, but otherwise it's a pretty vanilla creature that doesn't really give you that big of a benefit on ETB, that I don't think this is a playable card. Rohirrim Lancer, on the other hand, has enough effects that I think it's an interesting card. So it's cheap, 1 mana. It does have a innate ability, Menace, and Menace does have the benefit of making your tentative connection deck slightly more interesting. And then the temptation after it dies is a little bit bad because, for the ring tempting to give you value that turn, you want to have a different creature in play. So if they're already removing this one, they could potentially just remove this one when your board is clear, or like have this as the last creature they remove. So it has some things working against it, so it might not be the best, but it's an interesting card. I was just thinking about it does kind of play nice with, if you're thinking about like ninjas, with the fact that it ring tempts you and then this ring tempts you, so you might get enough ring temptation with this card and the other card that you're kind of really happy with that. So this is a consideration. I could see it being played in some decks. Again, with all of these cards, the 1 toughness downside just kind of can't be overstated. I feel like there's, especially in the post board games, there's just so many colors have access to punish 1 toughness creatures that you're really asking for it if you play too many of these. Rush the Room, I don't think it's good enough. It's interesting that they've kind of upgraded, I forgot what the spell was, Sure Strike or something like that, where it gave first strike and +1/+1, but now they added this other thing where they potentially can give a creature haste. I just don't think it's good enough. It's just a mediocre trick. Smite the Deathless. This is a strict upgrade to Scorching Dragonfire. But Scorching Dragonfire is like seen as 1 or 2 of in main decks and sometimes in sideboards of like red decks that aren't already playing black for the exile. So some decks will upgrade that card. It only upgrades it slightly by the Indestructible clause. So it's not a big splashing card. This we already have an effect like this with I think it's actually a dwarf that comes in. It's a 3 mana 2/2 that makes a treasure token. And there's one that can give itself haste, and another one, I forgot. Anyway, they destroy an artifact, I think. So I don't think this card is that good, even though it does add to your instants or sorcery count, and it can be recurred with cards that bring back instants or sorceries from your graveyard. But yeah, I don't think this is where you want to be. And then the last card, War Beast of Gorgoroth. It's interesting because it doesn't exclude orcs from this trigger. So if you had a 4/4 orc army and it got killed, it could you could just bring back an orc 2 and then potentially bring back something else and make it a 4/4 again, and then it would keep recurring. Well, the question you would have for your opponent is, why do you keep killing the random 4/4 token that's going to keep coming back versus just killing this thing? And so again, unplayable, even though it has like a little bit of like possibility of combo if you could somehow get it so you add 2 more counters to the creature and then you could infinitely sack it. But there's no cards currently in Historic Pauper that can combo and make this infinite. But yeah, they kind of, I think in modern design, they would somehow prevent it from triggering off of orc armies. Yeah, so it's interesting that I've just thought of that, like for the rare cards, that like doubling season where it's going to double the counters, you could literally keep sacking your orc army and just keep getting infinite sacks. And so normally they would say like Modern Design would have them say Warbeast Gargoth or another creature other than an army or an orc creature or something like that to prevent this from going infinite with itself. Anyway, despite that it going infinite, I think the best red cards are Breaking the Fellowship, Cast into the Fire, and let's see, there was one or two more cards that I had said that were... Oh, Improvised Club, yeah. So, Improvised Club, number 1, and then probably Cast into the Fire, number 2, and then this one is number 3. This one I am hesitant to say it's completely valuable, and then I would say as an honorable mention, maybe this one is 4. Oh wait, never mind. Rally at Hornburg. So actually, there's quite a few red cards that are pretty good. So I would put let's see. So Club 1, Rally at Hornburg 2, Breaking the Fellowship at 3. No wait. Cast versus Breaking. I would say Cast at 3, Breaking at 4, and then the Lancer at 5 is how I would do my top 5 for red. Again, this card is just like a functional reprint, so it's going to see some play, but it's not really a big change that's going to matter. This line about losing Indestructible is not really that relevant. So yeah, that's red. We've got 2 more videos coming up of green and artifacts /land. All right, see you for those.